Hi guys, it's me, William, with Turnkey Open Doors. I'm here with Paolo Flores. He's with Abba Realty. He basically does investments overseas in the Philippines, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about himself. So first things first, can you please introduce yourself, Paolo?
Hi, William. It's nice to meet someone in the same business. But yeah, I'll be happy to talk about what I know. Paolo Flores, I've been a realtor since 2005. And then right now, I manage a broker company here in South Florida.
Awesome. That sounds good. So basically, what did you do before actually real estate, if you don't mind me asking?
All right. So when I graduated in college, I went straight to real estate. So went straight to real estate sometime in 2004, and then around 2004 up to 2008, I've been traveling with my dad because my dad sends nurses abroad overseas,
Wow.
and one of the countries is here in the U.S. So
Okay.
to utilize the time that I was there, I think that I said that I should make some business. So around that time, I offered the condominiums in business districts in the Philippines, and then I offered it usually to the professionals, usually nurses in the healthcare industry, some small business owners in the U.S., and I find that it's an efficient and it's an effective marketing rather than selling houses locally.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. That's pretty cool that your dad worked with nurses. So that got you basically into real estate, basically, but overseas, not not here, is what you're saying. So only
Yeah.
in the Philippines, right? Correct? You were
Yeah.
managing property there. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. That's pretty cool. So tell me about the collaborations overseas. What is that about? The title of the interview today.
All right. So around that time in 2005 to 2008, I was employed with the big chip developers back in the Philippines. And then during that time, I saw the opportunity of going abroad or going here in the U.S. So fortunately, we have a home base here. So we had a townhouse in California.
Hmm.
So during that time, there I took advantage of the fact that I can go there for 2 to 3 months and then network with people and promote my stuff. So in 2010, I decided to operate a brokerage and then decided to sell pre-construction properties in the Philippines. So when it's pre-construction, normally the payments are about $300 to $400 every month with no down payment. So that was a very attractive offer. And then there you go. After that, after they construct their offices, I manage their properties. And then during that time, I decided to collaborate with different restaurants, bookkeepers, different businesses that I think that I can bring some value for them to have their, to do something about their business as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Networking, business networking is very powerful, especially if you are talking to other professionals that are interested in your area of expertise. It's kind of cool that me and you kind of do the same thing, except I do it here and you do it overseas. I think that's pretty awesome. So basically, when you purchase these properties in the Philippines, how much is the return on investment usually for these properties?
All right. So during 2010, that's the time I started my international road shows. here in the U.S. So the price during that time is around $60,000. So
Hmm.
it's there's a no down payment
Oh wow.
required. They only pay $300 to $400 a month for a studio property, and then after 3 years, that particular property doubled in value, and then has generated $500 after 2013. Then every year, conservatively, we add 5 to 8% in that particular return. So
Hmm.
basically, you're looking at 8 to 10% of returns if you invested around 2010.
Wow, that's pretty
Mhm.
good. That's not bad. So currently, obviously, we're in a weird situation right now with COVID going on. Can you tell me how have you adapted since you're international and I'm sure you have investors from all over the world. How are you able to adapt to these changes? What are you doing in your company to make it better?
All right, that's a good question, William, because most of my marketing internationally involves a lot of community events. So again, I what I do basically is I go to a certain restaurant, ask the owner, like, hey, can I do an event here? I'm gonna invite two more business owners within the area, share their expertise, and then we gather a crowd, and then I'm gonna tell them that we're gonna promote it, produce some tickets so that people are gonna eat in your restaurant, stuff like that. So with the current situation, I've been thinking about doing these types of marketing. Like right now, we invested in some applications such as video marketing, and at the same time. Um, produce more. I think we had a footprint already in the Philippines that I have to produce a lot of materials in terms of improving our listing presentations.
Hmm.
So that's the only things that we have, because basically I just felt the changes recently after March 18. All right,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
prior to that, we had this event in California for imagine for 3 weeks, we sold 10 more properties.
Wow.
So after that, things has been very challenging. But so far we're still closing, but the rentals, I must admit that some were also reduced in the pricing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mhm.
I can completely understand that. It's definitely unique the situation, especially with people out of work or certain demographics that are on lockdown. I could see
Mhm.
that being a problem for sure. Especially we're seeing it here, and we're in the U.S. So I can only imagine how that is there. So real quick, where does this name Abba Realty come from? Does it stand for something, or is it something that you just came up with?
Okay, so my dad operates a recruitment agency. So again, he sends nurses in the Middle East, and before he sends nurses here in the U.S. So I asked him that question. Well, what do you mean by ABBA? So in the 90s, apparently, they do marketing by going into the directory, right? The physical directory. And since it's A to Z, the first the first agency that will pop up is ABBA Personal Services, his company. So I just copied it just so I'm not the one to think about it. I was like, okay, I'll just put numbers 98 and that's it, so that
Okay.
the the Securities and Exchange Commission in our country can accept it, operate it, and then let's go. I'm
Yeah.
like that. All right.
So you're located in South Florida, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. In South Florida, do you do transactions there too as well?
Basically, my business here is kind of new. I'm looking for, again, as I've told you earlier, I'm looking for mentors here, looking for mortgage bankers. I'm more of a follower right now. I'm looking to talk with independent brokerages, people who would have the same mindset as me in terms of marketing. Like this one, I like this one. That's why I'm fully supportive of these initiatives. So right now, tell you frankly, I've been planting and been farming for clients. But then, since my arrival in Florida started with Orlando, I have a lot of networks in Orlando more than here in Miami. So it takes me about 3 hours to go there and visit my friends. So I'm just starting out. Basically, I'm just doing what I do best, which is to still promote my services back home in the Philippines.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So tell me about the property management there, real quick. Obviously, here to do property management, you have to know a lot about the laws. You have to know a lot about renting. You have to know a lot about marketing to that certain area, especially that country.
Mhm.
So my question is for you is how is property management overseas? One, and two, how much do you guys charge for the property management? What are the normal rates that you would usually charge for that in the Philippines?
All right, that's a good question. I think there's a certain a big difference in terms of property management in the Philippines compared to here in the U.S. In the Philippines, the landlords are much more in control in terms of the rental. So here in the U.S., I believe some laws would allow the tenant to be in charge of a particular property. Like, let's say they have laws that would be more pro tenant. In the Philippines, it's more pro landlord, which can be an advantage to landlords, but a disadvantage to the tenants.
That makes sense completely. So how much do you guys usually charge for property management in the Philippines? Just to get an idea if somebody's interested in purchasing a property over there, and then the management side.
All right. So for usually we get rentals for at least 1 year. So with 1 year, we charge 1 month of 1 month equals to the closed rental price, and that involves the management side already. So that means if something happens, usually from outside the office hours of the property, we try to go talk to the staff. We try to talk to the property management with our staff so that we can resolve it immediately.
Of course, that makes sense. That's kind of funny. It's pretty similar to us, kind of here in the U.S. We do a lease only option, which is 100% of the first month's rent, but then we have a monthly management kind of full service kind of deal, which
Uh-huh.
is pretty interesting to know that you guys charge that way and we charge this way, and then to understand the different laws that you guys have versus ours, which is like I feel like here it's always about trying not to get sued, possibly, right? More
Yeah,
than anything, because there are a lot of variables, right?
yeah, there.
We're such a unique country in that we have so many laws to protect both sides.
I know. Yeah.
Make it
Mhm.
as fair as possible. That could be somewhat restrictive in ways, but at the same time, it's beneficial because it covers both sides. I think. Um, but besides that, I think that's great that you started people investing outside of the country. Now, out of all the countries in the world, why do we pick the Philippines? What is the Philippines doing than maybe investing in somewhere else, maybe South America or something like that? Why would somebody that's from the U.S. invest there?
Right. So normally our market caters to somewhat the same demographic, which is a Filipino professional who would like to retire in the Philippines. But we have a few investors, foreign investors, that were also being referred to us, and they saw the potential, especially if the properties are below $100,000, and then they allow certain types of financing that would be very attractive with a low down payment and monthly payments for $300 to $400. So we try to tell them in one of our seminars that $300 to $400, it's like your car payment here in the U.S., right? Three to $400 could be a one expensive shoe, expensive bag. So that's how we tell it to them. And then usually in our presentations, we always have 2 or 3 foreign investors that are there so that they can tell their story of what they experienced with our with the properties that we offer.
So you guys basically focus on cash flow, so money coming back, right? So once
Yes.
you get a rental, your main income is that. So is there also an appreciation as well in the Philippines for
Yeah.
property as well? Oh
Yes.
wow, that's awesome.
So
Yeah.
the equity, usually the yearly increase for the past 4 years has been around 8 to 12%.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a bit good, and at the same time, if you're an investor, it's all the laws. What you were talking about earlier, the laws favor the landlord. Number two, the prices favor the investor.
Hmm.
And number three, there's a certain law in the Philippines when you get financing. If something happens to you, you can get it. You can get it for free with no loans. It's what we call the mortgage redemption insurance. So let's say you've been paying for your mortgage, and then something happened to you in year 2. During that, after that time, you have the right. You don't have any loans anymore, and all the property will be turned over to your heirs. So, which it acts out like an insurance.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That's good.
Mhm.
It's protection, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Nice. So as far as evictions over there, does that happen? And how often?
Yeah. Unfortunately, as I've said, landlords has the upper hand in terms of the laws in the
Okay.
Philippines. That um, uh, yeah, it's much better to be an investor there in that country, because if let's say you didn't pay for 3 months, the landlord usually will just ask for a formal complaint in the property management, and then there's like a sheriff that will go in the unit and then tell them, bug them about it, and then they will even resort to cutting off the electricity and water.
Oh wow. That's
So that's the unfortunate part if you're the tenant sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Some of the techniques we use here is cash for keys, where we'll pay for their moving expenses to kind of get them out of the property. That's one of the biggest things I think that most US people do, because
That
it's
is your expense as a company,
no, not a company. The landlord has
the
to,
landlord. Oh,
but you either lose 2 months of rent or you pay $500 to move somebody out, right?
well,
So
yeah. Hmm.
it's an opportunity, but it stinks that evictions do happen. Evictions happen, and it's unfortunate. It's not that they happen a lot, though, right?
Yeah,
So
not a
it,
lot.
if you have a good property management company, they're going to filter out the right person to live there,
Hmm.
and the person that lives there is going to make sure that they take care of the property like it's yours. You always get that weird occasion where people are living in and they have an unfortunate event, like for
Yeah.
instance, divorce, could lead to not being able to pay rent or something like that, something similar to that. So it's just something that that's very common. And but as far as investment property in Philippines, that's pretty good that you have some kind of insurance and some
Mhm.
kind of help, which is to me very important,
Mhm.
because you want to be protected and you want to protect that investment. So the people that you talk to, Paolo, are they looking for a place to put money for retirement? Is that the idea? Is they invest in these properties for retirement, or is it mostly for just making cash flow, or what is the purpose usually behind an investor that wants to invest in the Philippines?
All right. So I noticed with our clientele, they would like to go there for so that they will have a second home. Normally, the Filipinos or the locals here in the U.S. Uh, they normally go to the Philippines once a year. So at first, they will be getting a property. They're thinking that it's just about $300 to $400. Why don't I get the a property there so that I can have my own privacy? Number one, and number two, they can move independently. So our culture in the Philippines, it's like a very we are very family oriented.
Yes.
Some of the Filipinos who has been in the U.S. for a long time, they become independent. That they want their own place, they want their own time, they want to go on their own, to go independently wherever they are. So those are one of the reasons. But in the next after the turnover of the property, once it's finished, because most of my promotions here are pre-construction properties for an average of 2 to 3 years. So when they what they realize is when it's finished, they would like to rent it out. All right, rent it out for a year, and then when they notice that I've been having this amount, $500 every month, let's say, they normally plan to just um, uh, rent it out and then get the profit, have it deposit in their Philippine bank account,
Hmm.
and then spend it
For vacation.
when they're there. You know,
Yeah, that
they
makes
plan
sense.
it out. Hmm.
That makes sense. You want to hear something funny? I actually, my parents own property in Colombia, and
Okay.
when we went down there, we would do the same thing. Basically, we would use all the rent money. We'd put it away, and then we'd have funds for when we go there. Right, that's already produced over time. So we really, the only thing we'd have to spend money on is the plane ticket, and then the rest of the funds were there to spend, while we were there, which makes sense what you're saying. I also like what you said. I saw your presentation before this video, and I like what you said. Don't get too attached to the rental, right? Don't be so personal with the rental. Don't treat it like it's your house. Treat it
True.
like it's a rental. Can you tell me about that? I like that idea.
All right. So we always preach that one for because we have a certain market, right? Like we are looking for investors. Our goal is to increase their ROI every year.
Yeah.
So, but you cannot tell it to other clients who would like to live there on their and then they over improve. Usually they over improve. They hire an interior designer, which sometimes costs about half the price of the property already. So what happens was they want a rental price that is above the market, totally outside that particular budget,
Yeah.
and then they realize in 2 years that it's staying there with that price, so they have no choice but to bring it down. You know what I mean? So for us, we educate them like you just get the basic equipments, basic furnitures, and then that's it. Make it as neutral as possible so that we can add it on later on if they want to request something, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's funny. We do the same thing here. Basically, a lot of people when they accidental landlords, what we call them. I think you talked about that in yours too. Like somebody lives there and they have no choice but to keep the property. So then you manage it, kind of deal, because they don't want to sell it, but they want to keep it. But then they move. So they get kind of those kind of people get kind of attached to the sentimental value of their family growing up there. You
Oh,
know, the way the
yeah.
house is painted, right? The way the house is painted, the way it looks. So then they're thinking, okay, well, I want to make sure that this gets upgraded, that gets upgraded, and they treat it like it's their own home, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because upgrades are going to help you rent the property faster, right? But
True.
at the same time, you're putting in too much money in the beginning instead of making the money that you're supposed to, right?
Hmm.
So I always tell people, I'm like, it's good to do upgrades, but remember, it's a rental. People are just here to stay. They're going to live here for a little while and then they're going to move on to something either better, like purchasing their own home or another rental possibly. So don't focus on that side. Make sure that you're taking care of the property to make the tenant happy so they live there for years to come, but don't treat it like it's your house. Like people are going to be okay if there's no tile floor in the whole entire house. They'll live with carpet. It's fine, you know.
Hmm.
But those kind of features kind of help elevate the price of the property, elevate the marketing of the property. So I see exactly what you're talking about. It's pretty interesting. So going back to marketing, I saw you said that you're doing video marketing now and
Hmm.
you're using bloggers. I saw that is pretty cool to
Yeah.
get the properties across to people. Tell me about the bloggers. I want to learn about that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I asked a particular developer. I'm promoting this particular community. It's an up and coming community in the Philippines for retirees, and I told them about the idea of putting in a an event for the bloggers. So we had a contest wherein they would write articles for uh, for the particular property, and then whoever wins will get prizes. So yeah, so we gathered about 40 of them, and then I asked for a bus for the bloggers, and then toured them around because the project is about 2,200 hectares in size. It's a mixed-use development. They were um, they've seen the commercial areas and the future developments of the property. In that way, we were allowed some kind of marketing in the developers' social media sites. At the same time, the articles that were written towards the event is a good way in terms of building some reputation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
For bloggers to go out there for you to provide that service so they can market the investments that you have, you know, for these investors. It's very unique, actually. Something different, you know. It's
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's a cool idea, and you're very. It seems like you're very creative with the way that you're marketing these properties. You're not just doing it the old-fashioned way or the way that people do it now, where they just put an ad online.
I
That's
know.
it,
Yeah.
right? You're
I'm
just
mixing it up. Yeah.
you're taking relationship, you're creating relationships, and then building on those relationships to get the word out there, which is awesome. But
Okay.
anyways, Paulo, how do I reach you? How do I get out to reach you if I want to invest in property in the Philippines? If I want you to manage my property, you know, if I want you to provide me with that great ABBA 98 service, how do I reach out to you to get a hold of you?
All right. We have a website. It's called abbarealty.com.ph. So it provides all of the condominiums that we offer. But again, we advise that you send us a message because there are some good deals right now. and we can send you some more listing presentations wherein they are now currently rented at a rate of 8% at the very least. So yeah, so I guess that's it. That's the best way to reach me. And then you can email me at Paolo Flores 888 at yahoo.com.
Cool. A phone number? Oh, it's down below in the ticker. But in any case, yeah, reach out to Pablo. I recommend him 100%. It seems like he follows the same thing that I do as far as taking care of people, treating them well, teaching them about investment property and managing them. That's the most important thing, I think. Thank you, Pablo, for talking to us today. I'm so excited to get this whole thing started, and thank you for being the first person to do so. I really would love to meet you. Maybe one day we could eat Filipino food somewhere.
Definitely.
I would love that. I would love that for sure. But in any case, Paolo, take care. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Follow us, subscribe on YouTube, Turnkey Open Doors. We're also on Instagram. I'll be uploading this all over the place and giving Paolo a copy so he can promote his business and so he can show people what it's like to invest in the Philippines. So thank you, Pablo. I hope you have a nice day. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Take care.
All right.